Lane's coming in right now.
Oh, also, we have a quorum.
Yay, she said she was gonna be here. Just saw her yesterday randomly.
Okay.
Alrighty, well, welcome everyone to the Human Rights Commission. Today is Wednesday, July 9th, and we'll get this meeting started. I'm gonna skip a little bit and do a quick announcement that Chair it's chair, right? I'm not a chariot, so it's not president. Sorry. Chair Laura Midkiff is out this evening. He might tune in virtually for a little bit, but we're not gonna count on that. And then Vice Chair Marshall might be in a little bit. So for right now, you're stuck with me. Wish us luck. So we will start with introductions. My name is Kiara Pressey. I am a member of this commission. My pronouns are she, her, and I never remember my ward. I'm so sorry. I will popcorn over to Christina.
Christina Ballard. I'm from Ward 7 and I am the commissioner on the commission.
Celine Coleman, I'm one of the commissioners and I'm in Ward.
Hope Strayer, Youth Commissioner for the HRC, and I am in Ward 1.
Kate Strathby. I am a commissioner, pronoun she, her, and I am in Ward 1. And I will pass it to Ilana.
Hey all, I'm Ilana or Moss Lynn. I use they, them pronouns. I am a member of this commission and I will pass it to Kelsey.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey Murray. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a commissioner on the HRC, and I'll pass it to Gretchen.
Hi, good evening. Gretchen Bennett, she, her pronouns, and staff to the commission.
Awesome. Well, welcome again, everybody. We will move into public comment. Gretchen, did we receive any public comment?
None received.
Okay, and I'm not seeing any members of the public online or in this room. So we will move on with member remarks and announcements or non-agenda items. Does anyone have remarks, announcements, or non-agenda items? Awesome. Seeing none. So we will move into action and discussion items. We are going to skip bias crime update today because they're not here yet, and we're not sure if they're going to be here this evening. So we'll move into complaints of discrimination. Gretchen, did we receive any complaints?
Thank you. Yes, I'm in receipt of 4 complaints during the period. And then we also, we heard of a situation at testimony at a council meeting that a commissioner is interested in. And so just today I reached out to that person, but haven't heard back. So we may bring another situation up. But first one is a community member reported that at a community event coming up, there was not ASL interpretation scheduled despite a request, and the organizer lacked funds to provide for the interpretation. And so we shared the need with a number of people and located a donor who was able to contribute to meet the need for ASL interpretation. A second one was a community member who is a former member of the Human Rights Commission reported being how they described as felt attacked on social media for having opposing political views to the other member, or I'm not saying very well, a former member of, they said that they were being attacked on social media, and they were at one time a member of HRC, as was the person who was reaching out and making posts. And he described being in a different having a different political perspective, and found the posts to be of a nature where they felt attacked, and that the posts were encouraging people to not fraternize their business to affect their livelihood. And so they wanted to call in and express interest that HRC take a stand or make a statement about dialogue on social media, encouraging everyone to look for common ground in these days and times, regardless of political affiliations. Let's find common ground and seek to understand one another. And, oh yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, this is Christina. I have a question about that. Was it in a social media forum that is Salem related?
I don't know. I have the impression it's a typical global site, like for example, Instagram, not like on the city's pages themselves, but I could
Or
double check that.
not like a Facebook group that's like, say, Friends of Minto Brown Park or something like.
Correct. I have the impression it's just the general
general-
world of people connecting with each other.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, I got another. And then I had a community member and spouse call and be concerned that they feel that they're being targeted by neighbors due to their openness as being in the LGBTQ community, feel being targeted due to or being targeted by use of the parking policies, like being called in and reported for a complaint about parking when actually the situation they felt was due to their identity, if that makes sense. I'm sorry, I'm not communicating very well. We reached out to the department that works on that and learned of information and then was able to get back to the complainant. In this case, apparently there were a large number of complaints about a large number of people and not any utterance of a particular identity that we could see. So you can't really confirm or deny the intent, but there were a lot of complaints about a lot of people. So they weren't the only one that was getting complained about. So we were able to kind of share information back and forth, and that's kind of where we are on that one. And the last one was a community member who speaks of both mental and physical disabilities, reported multiple instances of verbal and threatening behaviors that they felt from fellow apartment residents regarding race and disability. They'd reported each incident to the property manager and not received good solutions. And so kind of trying to problem solve what some options or remedies might be in that situation. So that reflects the report that I've got tonight.
Does anyone have any questions on those? If not, I do have one, Gretchen.
Yeah.
On the social media one, what was your response to that as far as like problem solving, or was it just a request for us to make a statement?
A request to make a statement. How I understand it to be is they would hope that HRC would say, you know, we want people to come to common ground and not attack or disparage others for differing views on politics. This is important now more than ever. I think the person was seeking, would the commission want to make a statement along those lines? And they're happy to come to the commission and speak if you all would want that to happen.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen. That being said, Vice Chair Marshall just walked in, so I'm going to turn this meeting over to him. We are on item 4C. I mean, I can keep going if you want, but you are the more qualified one, so.
All right, thank you. I do want to just apologize to everybody. I woke up this morning and have now found myself unexpectedly taking care of my neighbor's 10-year-old Australian Shepherd. So now I've got 2 dogs, and one dog was hard to manage as it was. So we are on 4D, you said? 4C, okay, community belonging survey analysis and council report prep. Yes, I'll yield to Gretchen.
You bet. And I didn't say this to you, Kate, but if you want to help with introducing this out, you'd be, of course, welcome. This is an opportunity to bring back and relook at the community belonging survey that you all received a presentation from last month. You might remember your community engagement committee and Western Oregon University worked hard to bring you this information. I can share my screen with either the student presentations or the data that we received as you wish and tell me. And this is an opportunity for you to reflect on what stood out to you out of the study. What are some areas that pique your interest to work on? Do you have questions that you'd like to understand in the data more fully that either we can discuss together or ask the professor for help with? And as you start imagining an update to city council in the fall, are there elements that you want to start thinking about to include in that report? Things you want to highlight for them that came out of the study, things that are going to be areas of focus for you. So this is really kind of an open time to explore that survey.
Does anyone have a preference on whether or not we look at the, it is, sorry, I am all sorts of discombobulated. Does anyone have a preference on whether or not we look at the PDF version of the report or the slide deck?
My only request would be that everyone also looks at it offline and provides some feedback, and they're welcome to send it to Gretchen, welcome to send it to me. But I believe that was the outcome of our community engagement meeting, was that we would, I've been typing too much today. We would collate, is that a word? Collate that to, or put it together. Anyway, put it together and package it up. And that Joaquin and Robert would be happy to present that to a city council when we're ready. And usually that's in the fall. So we can look at it again today, but if you take time and do a little review on your own too, and you want to send some feedback, that'd be really helpful as we prepare those materials.
Hey, is your preference to have it via email like that? Or do you want me to tell you right now?
We have time on the agenda, so it would be nice to get everyone's, thoughts on what information we would like to include in the report. So if people have ideas or suggestions on what we want to take from the community belonging survey to present to council, either things that we think that, it's pertinent information that, council should know about, or whether or not we want to, take something from that report, but then we want to analyze it against trends from, previous years. I would love to hear those suggestions this evening.
So I think some things that I think would be imperative to kind of highlight in the report is that specifically the groups that reporting the highest or witnessing and hearing or personally experiencing discrimination are those currently experiencing homelessness or and or living with a disability. I think that's really important for city council to understand that demographic right there is the ones I mean experiencing it the most. And it's consistent pretty much in this entire thing that they're not only experiencing it, but they're not comfortable reporting it to SPD, and I think that's important to highlight as well. I think it's page 13 and 18 in not the survey that we were presented, but the executive summary. And then I don't know that we necessarily want to highlight it there, but I did find it interesting on page 21 that they also don't report to the HRC. And I think it said like 51% of that was because they didn't know about the HRC, which from just an HRC perspective, what are we going to do to mitigate that? Like, how do we get the word out there that we're here and that we want them to report to us if they don't feel comfortable reporting to the police? So I don't know that necessarily needs to be highlighted with city council, but I think it's something we should look at. And then lastly, I think it would be nice to include something that I think it's on page 19 of the executive summary, that men and those experiencing homelessness are, those not experiencing homelessness, excuse me, are more likely to report than anyone else. I think that says a lot. That's what I have.
Robert, Alana has their hand up if.
Commissioner Moss.
Thank you. So agree with everything that was just said. And then I would also like to add page 9 of the report. It says that the most prevalent theme was a sense of community, or the most prevalent theme of where people felt a sense of community was at community events and public gatherings. I know that with the Salem budget, those events are harder and harder to do, but they have a big impact, and I think that that should be acknowledged. And then I also would want to emphasize the support of the livability levy and the support of our libraries and continuing their funding as safe spaces for our community.
Yes, go ahead.
This is Christina. I also agree with everything that's already been said, and I would like to add a little bit. As the folks who identified as people with disabilities were also high on the number of folks who experienced discrimination, but also did not feel a sense of belonging. I think that part of our job is to communicate that, but also help educate the council on what exactly disability is. There are a lot of invisible disabilities. Quite often, folks don't think about that, and quite often they may not understand fully what constitutes a disability, and that may be some of what is at play currently with complaints about the disability to enjoy downtown when you see people who might have disabilities.
Anything else?
Linnell has her hand raised.
Oh, perfect. I was gonna get to Linnell. Wanted to offer time for, I was just gonna put her on the spot, even if she didn't have her hand raised. But I do want to allow commissioners to speak on this subject first. Yes, please.
Sorry, this is Kira. I have one more. And it's actually on the slideshow. There is one that's called Community Connections. And I think that one would also go hand in hand in what I had earlier said about men and those not experiencing homelessness are more likely to report. They're also the highest sense of community. They're the ones experiencing the highest sense versus Indigenous, Alaskan Native, and those with both mental and physical disabilities and unhoused. I think that would be great to highlight as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? All right. Oh, yes.
Just quickly, sorry.
Celine, go ahead.
I just think it would be nice to have some liaisons, whether it's for the homeless community, those disabled, because a lot of times when they don't see people that either look like them or have a lot of the same factors they can relate to, their sense of belonging decreases. Kira brought up like the men, a lot of men create, or on the back side of things in Salem, a lot of men are behind the decisions, and so they may have a greater sense of belonging. Not the HRC, because it's mostly women. So happy about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Coleman. All right. I wish, what, I do feel I do feel a sense of belonging here at this table. You know, serving on the HRC is one of the greatest pleasures I currently hold. I do wanna ask Linnell to provide some input.
I would echo a lot of the points that people were making about the things that stood out to them, and I feel very similarly. And I'm just kind of thinking out loud here, and I don't have anything prepared, but it just really strikes me that a lot of the things that people who are homeless are experiencing are relating to livability, as we're talking about wanting more livability downtown. And there's going to be an upcoming work session about that on the 21st. And I just don't know, is there an avenue for kind of connecting the things? It's, we say we have the values of wanting everyone to feel a sense of belonging, community, inclusion, and we have populations that don't, people with disabilities, people who are homeless, and there are other marginalized people that don't, but we haven't done like specific targeted outreach as much as we have with homeless people. But, as businesses are worried about what's happening, as, city councilors are wondering, how do we enable livability and safety? I feel like a lot of it is educating people about disabilities, about homelessness, but kind of connecting the fact that the livability that they're feeling isn't as big as they would like it to be is, 10 times that for the people who are experiencing homelessness and other marginalized populations. And if we're really talking about livability and inclusion and communityness, is that only for some people? And it even brings back, we were going to get a Portland lure to, livability is having the basic human needs met and having, places to throw your trash and ways to pick up your poop if you had to, poop in a doorway. And yet it's also businesses and their customers and staff feeling safe to go to work. So, but is there a way we can make the connection? The livability we're talking about in this survey is the livability that everybody wants, but we need to act in ways that it actually increases for everybody. And it just seems to me like there's a connection there as we're talking about what's livability for downtown people who are housed and what's livability for the people who are unsheltered and experiencing ongoing discrimination. So I don't know if your suggestions or, narratives could kind of draw that connection, but I feel like it would be valid and relevant. So food for thought. And I guess just one more thing is, livability. When I was talking to the police at the last, we have an outreach meeting every first Tuesday of the month. And I asked the police, are you experiencing more reports, more violence? And what they shared is that they're experiencing livability crimes. They're experiencing some petty theft, some broken windows, some poop in doorways. They're experiencing people camping, setting a fire to keep warm. And all of those things are reflections of we're not able to meet the basic human need of people having a place to live and be. And some of the city report and, Main Street report was talking about maybe we need more enforcement. Well, enforcement of what? You can't be here and you can't be here and you can't be here. So evaporate into thin air. And if enforcement is about exclusion zones like they used to do sometimes, it's like, does this group feel like that's not okay? And if you do, could your recommendations include we can't do exclusion zones? So more for thought.
Commissioner Strayer, I will entertain all ideas. Real quick though, Linnell, thank you so much for everything that you said. Working as a professional in this space, I resonate with all of that. So thank you so much for your input, and as well as just all the work that you do advocating for people experiencing homelessness and the unsheltered population. For those that are listening and for those that aren't aware, Linnell has been a huge driver in ensuring this survey remains accessible to individuals experiencing homelessness. And she's been a huge advocate for making sure that, we're including them by, networking with resource providers to make sure that these surveys are available, that these individuals know about them, but that also we're making paper copies available for those that, don't have access to technology, which many people experiencing homelessness do. So I do just want to acknowledge all the work that Linnell does put in every year for the Community Belonging Survey. and then all the stuff that she's doing behind the scenes for the people in Salem experiencing homelessness, as well as helping share the word about the HRC. She's been a huge champion, and we appreciate that a lot, Linnell. Thank you.
I love you guys. You're my favorite committee, and I'm not even on it. Thank you for all you do.
We can always find room. I'll turn it over to Commissioner Strayer.
Alrighty, thank you. And thank you, Linnell. I'm just going to throw out some ideas just that I've been thinking about as we've been discussing kind of what's standing out. We were talking about, the people that don't know about the HRC. And I think a main part of that is, yes, we have a Facebook page. Yes, we have all these things. But as, Vice Chair Marshall was saying, there's technology difficulty, and we haven't been doing a lot of outreach through like flyers like we did last summer. And I hate to say this as I'm leaving in a month because I won't be able to help, but I think we should set up more times to be going out into the community, putting out flyers, putting out things that people can see without needing access to technology. I don't know what ideas are for reaching people living with disability, but I think we can also be brainstorming that and finding ways to, increase visibility of the HRC and what we're doing and how much we care about people. Because we have these meetings and we're online, but if people don't know where we are, especially as we've moved buildings, it might be harder for them to come and be in a meeting or come and see Gretchen and discuss things. So if all we have is online availability, I think that really decreases our audience.
Could not agree more, Commissioner Strayer. Anybody else? These are all really great things, and I do see the Commissioner Strafty does have some stuff. So
this is not 100% related, but I think there are a lot of community solutions, and maybe we do like an open invite for like a community. So going back to the recommendations of the students, they suggested listening sessions and like community engagement sessions. And I went to like a nonprofit info session, which was down in Eugene. I know Celine's laughing at me because this is what I do in my free time. But I went to one in Eugene, and it was a nonprofit that is located in Eugene, Salem, Portland. And they're trying to also move out towards like Bend, Umatilla as well. And like nobody knows that they're here in Salem. And so we were trying to get the word out, and they support teens with night sports and mentorship to keep kids out of the criminal justice system, right? So at night, when kids would be on the street doing things that are not productive, let's put it that way, they go play sports, and their parents can also go and take like a parenting class or Zumba class or whatever that feels good for the parent. But the kids can show up and they get a free haircut. They can raffle off shoes. They get to meet an athlete that they might, see on TV. And so it's a really cool program. But we have those programs available throughout the city. Like Willamette Valley has so many programs, and Safe Sleep, right? There are a lot of programs. And so maybe we also come up with this recommendation, and I don't know protocol, whether it goes to city council first or secondarily, but maybe we create like a listening session or feedback session where we present our recommendation to city council and present it to community members first, or like those nonprofit community-based organizations first. Ask for feedback, get their feedback, and then we take that feedback to the city council as well. Because I think there's a lot of solutions out there that we just need to partner maybe with a couple other places too.
thank you. Commissioner Murray?
I am curious if we have done like a recent, because we have those little business cards that have like our information on it and then information about how to file a complaint of discrimination. I wonder if we've done a recent push to get those out to community-based organizations. And then my second point is we may want to like utilize the identified kind of like safe community spaces from the survey, such as the library, I'm thinking like the computer lab at the library, like having some information at every station about filing complaints or discrimination or resources that the Human Rights Commission has. Because I know a lot of people who don't have access to technology use those computers to get that access. So I wonder if we can reach out to the library and ask if that's something that they would be open to.
That is an excellent idea, and Gretchen is giving the thumbs up in the affirmative that that is something she can reach out about. I do want to invite Dr. Brown to provide some insights, if they would like, about information they would like to see in this report to council.
Appreciate you asking, but could you restate the question, please?
Yes. So we recently wrapped up the community belonging survey, and every year the HRC provides kind of just a couple slides on the findings from that survey, and possible recommendations to council. And we wanted to know if there were anything in particular, given your new role on the council, things that you would like to hear from the HRC in that report, or things that you think your colleagues on the council might like to hear.
That's helpful. A, and B, I believe that Commissioner Celine also said the same thing. There are quite a few folks, different communities, they just do not feel like they belong, which tells me that they are unseen. And the reason they aren't seen, it could be from racial identity, it could be from them, just their appearance, it could be, unsheltered. There are a variety of reasons why people feel that way. And so, although I'm not going to speak on behalf of the entire council, but as someone who lives in the city and as a person of color, I think whatever we can do to make all of our communities more safe and belonging, I see that as a win-win. And if the commission can help us do that or present at a city council the results from that survey, I think that's a win, because that'll get the conversation at the city council level. And so my recommendation or my input would be consider having members of the commission to share at a future city council meeting.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir.
Anything else on this topic before we move the agenda along? Seeing none, we'll move down to agenda item 4D, planning a public conversation on citizenship, discrimination, and reporting barriers. So just a little background information. This has been in the works for the commission for a while. It's been something that we've been wanting to, it has been something we've been wanting to do for a while, and it's really a space for the HRC to engage the community on this important subject, given current climates and fears that people and everything that are likely at risk of immigration enforcement and everything might be feeling. So why this conversation? In the 2024 Community Belonging Survey, Human Rights Commission found that people without citizenship or documentation status are less likely to report experiences of bias or discrimination. Through follow-up conversations and commission discussions, we heard that immigration status often leads to fear and vulnerability, and that this can make people hesitant to come forward even when harm has occurred. The goals that have been identified so far, the commission wants to help build understanding and trust. We plan to clarify how current Oregon policies affect undocumented community members, promote awareness of available resources and legal protections, and learn what role, if any, the commission or city can play in supporting safer reporting and access to help. What are we planning? organizing a public conversation with legal experts, advocates, and organizations who work directly with immigrant and undocumented communities. The goal is to share accurate information, listen to what communities are experiencing, and explore how to support safety, dignity, and equity for all residents. Gretchen, are these people that we have thought about inviting or people that we have already reached out to?
Thought about inviting to a degree. Some of them we've talked to before.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll read through this list. Mano a Mano Family Center, Legal Aid Services of Oregon, Salem for Refugees, Jenny's Legal Organization. Is that the name of it or is Jenny just the name? Okay. Oregon Law Center, Salem Police Department, Fair Housing Council of Oregon, Professor Joyce Mullen at Willamette University, Willamette Immigration Clinic, Piccoon. The event format, as proposed, again, some of this stuff is open to discussion. I'll open it up for discussion at the end for changes. A 90-minute focused panel discussion facilitated by the Human Rights Commission. Holding in a large room with space for panelists and community attendees. And then time reserved for community Q&A at the end, optional. I would say it's highly recommended and encouraged. Each panelist will be invited to introduce themselves and describe how their work relates to helping people feel safe for reporting discrimination. Sample discussion questions. What protections exist against retaliation or threats to privacy when someone reports discrimination? What concerns are you hearing in your communities and how are your organizations responding? Are there protections available for people who are in the process of obtaining documentation? Have you worked with undocumented individuals who experienced bias but were hesitant to report it? What might help reduce that hesitation? Where do people go now to report or share their concerns? Do they report to trusted individuals within the community? What ideas do you have to make it safer or easier for people to report bias or discrimination? Where can someone find trustworthy legal information or help for themselves or a loved one? So that is kind of the current framework for this potential discussion, for this forum, if you will. But I now open the floor to questions, comments, feedback regarding the framework. And we will start with Commissioner Ballard.
Thank you. I did speak to the chair today and he encouraged me to bring up these concerns in this portion of the meeting. As you know, we had folks here at our last meeting talking about stopping Avello. And then they have attended several city council meetings at this point, talking about the issue of the contract. And there's been several questions. And in addition to what we're trying to accomplish with this forum, there are a lot of questions and tension in the community right now regarding immigration and regarding a variety of things having to do with this issue. And I wanted to see if we could discuss a little bit to kind of assuage some of the fears if we can. And at least if we, well, I'll just, while we can as a body, the HRC as a body can recommend to the city council to make some sort of statement or send a letter or a recommendation to them. We can do that without request from them. We cannot guarantee that they would take any action, right? We have a limited amount of time to do things, so we also need to think about where we can best spend our time. My concern is that there have been a lot of very passionate folks who have spent a lot of time and energy on this issue, and they are very concerned. And it's brought up, the Avello issue has brought up a lot of other concerns with it. And I want to make sure that these folks are feeling heard and that they feel like they have allies within the city. And that's not what I'm hearing from the community. So if anybody wants to entertain, maybe recommending some language to the council that they might want to make a statement, something like that, I would encourage that. However, I think that anything we could recommend, seeing council's reactions and the mayor's reactions and the mayor's statements, I think that anything we might recommend would simply be performative, and therefore our time would be better spent on things where we could be more likely to get action. And that's unfortunate. What I do want to say is that I've tried to quell some fears about what might happen here in Salem if there is ICE action here. The police chief did put out a statement in January stating that, you know, we're a sanctuary city and SPD is not going to assist ICE. However, I've heard from a few folks, and I heard people testify at a council meeting that there has possibly been some aggression between PD and peaceful anti-ICE protesters, and that the citizens don't feel like they can trust that statement from PD. And that concerns me, because that means there's tension and there's distrust between the people and the people who are sworn to protect them. That said, I also want to make the point that there is a difference between assisting ICE action and police engaging in crowd control. And sometimes it can be very difficult to tell the difference. When we're watching what's going on in the country, we'll say in LA, that's where a lot of the current activity is. We might see these unmarked federal agents. We don't know if they're ICE or if they're National Guard at this point. They're not wearing identification. And you see local officers, be they LAPD or county officers. You do not see them assisting the federal officers, forcing people into vehicles and disappearing them. What you see the local officers doing is crowd control. They have to protect public safety. So for example, if protesters spread out into the public streets or into the highway, they have to act to push them back for their own safety and for other people's safety. I've seen it in footage happening at the ICE detention facility in Portland, when the ICE agents throw tear gas out, the protesters will cone it, eventually kick it back. Well, somebody has to protect the public property. If local law enforcement were to detain those protesters, they're engaging in crowd control. They are not assisting in ICE action. And I want to make sure that people understand that. And the reason I wanted to say this in a public forum is to make sure that the citizens here understand that difference. It's really important that we distinguish between those two things. But I also think it is important that we acknowledge the folks here in Salem are feeling that they can't trust the people who are sworn to protect them. And I want to see if there's something that we can do about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ballard. Commissioner Murray.
I want to respond to what Commissioner Ballard was saying. While I do think it's valid that sometimes law enforcement officers have been engaging in crowd control, I do want to acknowledge that also there has been violence to nonviolent protesters, and they also still hold up the system of white supremacy that law enforcement was created with. So I don't want to disregard people's concerns and real experiences being attacked or assaulted by law enforcement officers around the country. So I want to kind of push back against that a little bit. And then secondly, so going back to the forum, seeing that ICE has been known to just show up places, I'm wondering if it would be best if we moved this online, which I know is not the best place to have a forum. But I can definitely see people fearing for their safety in attending this and worrying that they are going to be picked up and detained by ICE if ICE is just hanging out outside. So I would encourage us to maybe think about moving it online.
Thank you, Commissioner Murray. Commissioner Strayer?
That was one of the concerns that I was going to raise. I love this idea. I love that we're trying to create something informational and educational for the community. But looking at some of these questions, I just kind of have a few concerns. We love the people that we're going to be working with on this, hopefully. And I think there's a certain level of protection that we could be going through for this. So maybe changing some of these questions, like ones asking if they've worked with undocumented individuals. I think having community groups directly name that that is what they do in their work can cause some danger to their organization and the people that are showing up to be helped, whether or not they have citizenship status. I think a lot of these questions are really helpful and educational on like our sanctuary city, sanctuary state, what we can be doing to help people report discrimination. But I think questions that directly look at documentation status might be helpful to change some of the language on that, or maybe delete some of these questions. I don't know, just to protect the people that we're trying to, help feel like they belong. And yeah.
Commissioner Stratton?
Thank you. So when we talked about this 2024, it's been a year, right, Gretchen, I think? We've been preparing for a while. We talked about a lot of different options for the format of this. And one of the options was even that it could be all in Spanish, which it very well could. That's still on the table. But I'm glad we're revisiting it now. I think we had tabled this because we just didn't have capacity at the time. I hope that is a valid point. At the same time, a lot of these folks work in immigration law, so it is also maybe assumed. But yes, very valid point. I think it's really needed right now. I think a lot of people are scared. And I feel like watching, because I now work out of other cities in the state as well, watching I don't want to say a sister city, but kind of one of our nearest big metropolitan areas of Eugene handle the same situation in a way much differently than the way that Salem is, I think is interesting. They're I don't want to say assisting, but they're definitely not I don't know. I'll just leave there. But they're not being as they're not helping their residents as much as I think the city of Salem is. And no matter what, we should see if people want to sign up for this, whether it's webinar or they want to come in person. That should all be anonymous. If you need to provide an email address, we need to be super clear and very careful that all of that is anonymous. Let them know exactly who it's going to. Gretchen, whatever that looks like, or Gretchen, whatever you want to do to legally protect yourself in the city with that information. Because I think it's not even police, it's authority right now. We've seen like Eugene has this issue with flock cameras and how that data is available to ICE, right? And they're just security cameras on the street, basically traffic cameras, and that's available. So they're scanning license plates. They have drone conversations happening that have been really unfortunate. And then they have like police that have not been protecting residents as much as City of Salem has. So we can do better. That's my point, I guess. I'm not saying it very eloquently, but we can do better. And I think if we can just show that we're really avidly protecting people, that's going a long way in building trust as well. But it's hard.
Thank you, Commissioner Ballard.
If we were to do it online, I'm assuming there's nothing that prevents anybody from using a VPN to access our Zoom link.
I'll need someone smarter to help me with that. We have a large Zoom account and we push to YouTube, but I don't know if somebody understands the question better than I do.
Anybody here? use
I
the-
don't think that there would be any issue with people using a VPN. That should be separate from Zoom and be able to run on its own.
Yeah, so I mean, we don't collect the IP addresses anyways of people logging in, so.
I'd be happy to write down the questions and find out, but I don't myself
Okay.
feel smart enough to speak to it.
In case people want the reassurances, we would want to know, are IP addresses collected of people who log into the call?
Well, I would like to say, I mean, I understand the need for reassurance, but I'd also just like to point out anything that, I mean, the reassurance is, well, I understand the need for reassurance, and what I'm saying anything is, I guess, spending a lot of effort and everything on that particular question, or conversation or thing, I don't think really is warranted, because we know for a fact that the city of Salem isn't going to share that information. So even if there is somewhere on the back end, that it scans IP addresses, I don't think anyone from Gretchen's office or Marion City Manager's office or anything is, handing over a list of IP addresses. I don't think our cyber crimes team is that robust.
I can add to that if people provide us with information with the expectation of privacy and confidentiality, and we make that clear in our communications, to Commissioner Strathty's point about do what you need to do, then that should be, I mean, I'm not an attorney, but that's a standard in considering a public records request is, did the person submit the information with an expectation of privacy and confidentiality? So we would want to pay attention to the way we experience, the way we run the communications.
Commissioner Murray.
From my understanding of what we've done before is, like Gretchen was saying, we push it to YouTube. So unless people want to like register for public comment or have questions, they would just watch it on YouTube. Is that correct?
Mrs. Gretchen, Kelsey, that's a great point. Anyone can watch on YouTube and we have no awareness of who is doing that or collect that information. We would need, so the Zoom is a very different thing. And you're right, we've done that with other events before where maybe the commission is in on Zoom, but then our guests are invited in to watch on YouTube. Yeah, we could structure it that way.
Yeah, that might be best.
Commissioner Strayer.
I was about to throw the same thing out there, so awesome.
Yeah, okay. Yes. Commissioner Pressley.
Thank you. I just wanted to say a couple things to what everyone said. To Commissioner Ballard's point, I think I do agree that right now making any sort of formal statement in regards to the Avelo flights would be very performative, and really not lead to any sort of lasting impact. And I think as a commission, maybe we could spend our energy and time on actionable efforts like this. And that being said, I think it would be a good idea to maybe offer both online and in person for accessibility reasons. I really do encourage the online because no one right now in those communities feels safe gathering. The other thing that I wanted to say is Commissioner Strayer brought up the point of redoing some of the questions, and I would recommend maybe leaning on some of those communities that are written here, like Mono Mono and Pacoon, to really get the language you're wanting safely, if that makes sense, hopefully. And I think that's all I had.
Commissioner Presley, I did want to, echo what you were saying. I think designing a format in which both in-person and virtual attendance and participation is the best route to go. Not only for the accessibility reasons, but I think there are some members of this community and everything who are still going to want to show up in these spaces and everything, just as a way of saying, we're not going to be silenced by fear. And I think by immediately just jumping to a virtual, like if we were to just go 100% virtual, we're making that decision for these communities. Whereas I think we could work, with the city's IT team, depending on, or, where we have this venue, to find the best solution to encourage both in-person and virtual two-way dialogue. So people can still provide input, virtually. They can still participate in a post-COVID era. I'm sure someone's figured out the best way to master that. And so I think we could easily find somebody in that space who would really help us ensure that we're really able to put this together thoughtfully, compassionately, but then also ensure that people can engage both in person and virtually. So with that, I guess we had discussed maybe making some changes towards the language. We've discussed exploring a hybrid option to this. I guess kind of just next steps would be maybe talking timeline, marketing, and venue. And I will pass it to Gretchen.
Thank you. This is Gretchen. My suggestion around timeline would be to consider October for landing this. August is coming up real quick. September, our LGBTQIA plus committee has a healthcare forum anticipated, and the same committee has the Transgender Day of Remembrance anticipated for November. We may land on something related to Human Rights Day or Salem Speaks Up in December. I think given capacity limitations, it would be good to try to have a cadence of, especially with all of our outreach from the Disability Rights Task Force, maybe not more than one larger forum in a month. So I would pitch October as an idea for the group's consideration to land on. It should give us time to thoughtfully prepare the questions and get the word out.
Any thoughts to Gretchen's recommendation?
I make a motion to do it in October, to hold this in October. I don't know if it's really a motion.
I don't know if we want to really make a motion. I think identifying October is when we want to do it. And I think possibly reaching out to these organizations and seeing if they can do something in October. I guess kind of in the past when we've done events like this, we've kind of, identified a window that would potentially work, and then provide a couple options to those presenters. And then we basically just land on, what what the majority is able to participate in. So I guess, Gretchen, do you have, I guess first question is, where would we want to do the event?
I would,
think the library. Oh.
go ahead, please.
I was just gonna say, I think the library auditorium is a good place to do it.
No, I would agree. All of our big HRC events have been at Laux Auditorium. There's plenty of seating. It's got a good stage, and city staff has always been super helpful in assisting the HRC in setting up the tech stuff. I also think it's good too if we want to try to partner with CC Media. All of their equipment's already plugged in, so I agree. Are there any oppositions or opposing viewpoints to Laux Auditorium?
Not an opposing viewpoint. I just think it's a safe space. Most people would identify Laux as a safe space in Salem. So those that are wanting to attend in person probably will feel okay attending. For the organizations, I know we have to confirm the representatives from them, but it would be nice to get a diverse array of representatives. Of course, like the professor on here, I'm not asking for her to be cloned or anything like that. But that's just one thing I would recommend.
All right, we're making great headway. So now I'm gonna challenge the entire commission to identify days of the week in October and/or weeks that work / don't work, so that Gretchen can liaise with her colleagues at the library to find the best day for Laux Auditorium. I know the Laux Auditorium is currently being used for city council meetings, so most Monday evenings probably be out of the question, and then we do have several committee meetings in addition to, the main HRC meeting, but in the past we have been amendable to postponing or just canceling a meeting for a month and anything to accommodate a big event. So are there weeks and or days of the week that work best or that people want to suggest? Go ahead, Commissioner Pressey.
This is Kira. I think either the week of the 13th or the 27th would be great because those are weeks we don't have committee meetings. And maybe we could do like Tuesday. I think before it was when we were doing the healthcare forum, it was recognized that like Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday are kind of the best days for most people.
Yeah, I think we landed on Tuesday, Wednesdays kind of being primary, with most organizations typically doing board meetings on a Thursday. You suggested the week of the 13th, or what was the other week?
The week of the 27th.
The week of the 27th. Okay.
Which would be Halloween. So maybe not. But I mean, if we did it either Tuesday or Wednesday, I mean, even Thursday. I mean, Halloween's not till Friday, so.
Perfect. I like that. Gretchen, could you reach out to your colleagues about days in that time frame? And I guess now let's chat about time. So we've identified the week, we've identified the month, the week, possibly days. Now let's talk about time. 6 a.m.
Maybe like 6 p.m.
Okay, so
to allow
like
people some time to get from work and grab a bite and come over.
So events starting at 6 or doors open at 6, event starting at 6:30?
I think maybe doors opening at like 5:30 and event starting at 6, if that sounds good to you guys. I do have another question too. Are you guys thinking of having a member of law enforcement here at this?
So law enforcement was listed, Salem Police Department was listed as on this as somebody that we would like to invite to speak. And given some of the other things that are brought up, especially with the some people kind of feeling that distrust between law enforcement and community members, I think this provides a really good platform for Salem PD to reiterate their stance in upholding Oregon sanctuary laws, as well as their opportunity to really relay the community and everything that they're here for all of the community. And I know that, you know, the police department that's so big, the views of, you know, some might not, you know, reflect the views of all. But I know that in a lot of conversations we've had with our Salem PD liaison to the HRC, he's been pretty vocal about wanting to ensure that Salem Police Department is a police department for all Salemites, that the services are accessible, that people are able to report concerns to them. And so I think it is important that we, I'm not sure where you're going, then I think it's important that we do keep them on the list of speakers should they want to participate.
I'm not opposed to that. However, I do have the suggestion that maybe they dress down similarly to how they did with the Transgender Day of Remembrance, simply because I cannot speak for this community, but if I pulled up and there was police officers outside or right there, I might be opposed to going inside or taking a seat. So.
No, those are very good. Those are very good observations. Especially the, you know, the police cars out front. I know in some conversations that I had with Sergeant Dowd, our liaison, he, and this was particularly after the Transgender Day of Remembrance, that he felt that because we had asked him to be in plain clothes, that he wasn't able to really represent the Salem Police Department, and he wasn't really able to show that the Salem Police Department was there to support the community. And I think there is a balance, and I think there is a conversation that we can have with Salem Police Department and everything to ensure that they do have some sort of, you know, logos on their shirt and everything. They do look somewhat like law enforcement, maybe not, you know, a traditional patrol uniform that might be, you know, as outwardly, I guess, show of force like. But I do think it's important, I think, that people do know who they are, like just by, you know, visual appearance, that they are members of, you know, Salem Police Department, and not just, you know, somebody else from a community organization or, you know, a private security firm that we had contracted for a couple of days. I mean, for a couple hours. But I do know in the past they've done events, you know, in like polos and, you know, just khaki, you know, BDU style pants, and, you know, maybe that's a common middle ground. But I would like to encourage us to also invite Salem PD to be part of that conversation, to see also, you know, kind of what they would like to present as to this event, and see where we kind of find that common ground. Any other questions, thoughts regarding the law enforcement conversation? Commissioner Strathy?
Well, also if they speak, then they will introduce, like if they're on the panel, that would also help. But the only feedback from the housing forum was like if they're oh my gosh, if they're introducing, I cannot talk, if they're introducing their organization, I think really the questions are going to be the important part of this conversation. And like people have a lot of questions, like what are my rights, right? If I'm stopped by ICE, what are my rights? How do I get support? Can I keep my phone? What do I do? Like people are going to have a lot of questions about that. And understanding what these organizations do is important, but I feel like we should limit their time about talking about, especially if we have this many. I think we can maybe pare that down just by availability, but like we will have to limit their time to like 3 minutes or something, like 5 minutes. Otherwise, we'll lose a lot of people just on attention span on all of these organizations. I mean, that's a lot of different groups. And then, you know, the discussion is the meat and potatoes of the conversation. So that would just be my 2 cents for format, but maybe format is the next conversation topic.
No, I definitely agree, and I think we can chat more in depth on the format at next month's meeting. But I agree, if we offered them all 5 minutes and we had all these conversations, I think maybe the best way to do it is, I'm just talking out loud here, is that they're all there and we just ask these questions and then we allow one or two organizations to answer that question. We ask another question and then they can raise their hand and people can choose where they want to interject, and we do it similar panel style like that. But I see that Commissioner Pressey has their hand hot on the mic. So go ahead.
I was just curious, will the panelists have tables similar to how we've done like resource fairs before? And where I'm going with that is maybe that would mitigate some of those questions if, we opened the doors at 5:30 and those people were available to be like, hey, these are your rights, or have more of a directed conversation with somebody.
I don't see why we wouldn't. I think it's kind of become customary of HRC events that doors open at 5:30 for an opportunity for them to interact with, the community organizations that we've invited.
That would also give your police department opportunity to make face as well, rather than being fully dressed.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do know that Salem PD, I think, a good way of, kind of pitching to them is like a coffee with a cop style, starting at 5:30. Please come early, talk to people. Not all of them have to stay, for, the entire thing, but if, several of them could show up and interact with the citizens, reassure them, and that could be a huge step. And I think Salem PD might appreciate that invite as well. Commissioner Strayer.
Yeah, I definitely think we should leave it open to them as to how they dress. But I do remember at Super Saturday, that event, they were slightly dressed down, but still in uniform and mainly interacting like with all the kids that were there and for the resource fair. And that was definitely a more accessible side of it where you can definitely tell who they are and they're having conversation, but it just looks more friendly and not as scary, especially for like the little kids that were there, which I think was the main point. But
Agreed.
yeah.
The next thing I want to challenge somebody on this body to do, if somebody feels so inclined, now that we've got kind of a lot of really good information on this, does somebody want to take a crack at making a flyer, either maybe Commissioner Murray, Commissioner Lynn, Commissioner Pressey, who've all done really great flyers in the past. Maybe you guys collab on Canva? Yes, am I hearing a yes?
I would gladly collab.
Perfect. So if you folks wouldn't mind having, a draft that we can look at next month, so that way we can start, ideally this is July, we meet in August. If we could finalize that, then we could start advertising for August and September. Awesome. I feel like we accomplished a lot on that agenda, and I'm super happy that it's moving forward. I think now the timing's right. It's been in the motions, it's been in the works for a while, but I think this is a conversation the community really needs, and I think it's something that the community really needs to see the HRC has a vested interest in, that we want to provide this information to them, that we want to make sure that it's an open forum, that we're putting all these people in one space versus them having to, with the fear and anxiety, travel all over Salem, wondering if the door they're knocking on is going to be a safe door for them to ask the question. And so I think being able to really provide that no wrong door approach, even if it is for, just a couple hours, is a great start. And I think it can lead to something that reoccurs either with the main commission or, even the community engagement committee that we have. And I think it ties in a lot to what we talked about in our community belonging survey, is that some of those underrepresented populations don't feel that Salem is safe for them. And I think being able to provide this space. Gretchen, I think maybe this is also something we talked to Joaquin about, is we would also need to get the flyer translated into Spanish. We'd want to make sure that information is correct. I think Joaquin can help us with that. And I think we need to definitely find some more Spanish speaking folks that can help us out with this event, Gretchen. And I don't know if you might be able to, connect with, some of your staff. I think maybe having some additional staff liaisons that speak Spanish could be helpful for this event. If it's
Copy.
doable.
Thank you. Yep, I'll put the word out.
Thank you. And then also for my fellow commissioners here, if you have volunteers that could, that speak Spanish, that want to come help out for the event. I know that I've got a couple, that I plan on bringing, but I think just ensuring that people, when they ask a question, there's somebody that's available to answer that question for them. And, you know, while I'm okay with being a friendly face, I don't want somebody to approach me to try to ask a question, me not being able to answer it because I don't speak the language. And so I really want us to make sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that we're breaking down those barriers before we open the doors on the day of the event at 5:30 p.m. If there is nothing else on that, I would like to move us along to community calendar. Commissioner Strayer, this is your last community calendar. Second to last. I was already trying to push out the doorway.
Second to last,
I'm sorry.
hopefully. I'm hoping I can make it to next month's meeting, but that remains to be seen because I'm driving down to school. And why are we having this event in October? So sad. I'm gonna have to watch online. Oh yeah, I'll just take a few days off school and who needs classes? But yeah, I'm really glad we're doing this. This is awesome. Yes, I only have a few events and most of them are later in the summer, but to kick it off, this is kind of a community event. It's in the West Salem Park, down in Edgewater. Every Thursday, the rest of this month at 6:30 is going to be a concert with different just local bands performing if anyone wants to join there. And then August 15th through 17th, there is the Woodburn Fiesta Mexicana celebrating the 60 years of family and Hispanic culture with vendors, parades, carnivals, a soccer tournament, and a whole lot of other performances and things. So that is in Woodburn, not Salem, sadly, but hopefully close if people want to join there. August 15th through 17th. And I believe that one is free. I'm not quite sure. Yeah. But I sent the calendar to Gretchen late, so she has not had the time to send it to you yet, but she will hopefully. Awesome. Okay. Then next is in September 12th through 14th is the Salem Art Fair and Festival at Bush's Pasture Park, celebrating art with music and performances, food vendors, and cultural exhibits. That one looks pretty great. And then also in September on the 20th is Salem's Pride in the Park, annual event by Capital Pride with music, entertainment, food, nonprofits, queer vendors, and more than 200 booths. So we always have that, and we're having it again this year. So those are the events I have so far. If anyone else wants to add them in, go for it.
And I also heard that Pride at the Park is a pet-friendly event. Learned that at the LGBTQIA plus committee meeting when I didn't try to get out of tabling an event. When I was on the fence on whether or not I would be available, I was told that dogs are more than welcome. So, any questions on the community calendar? Any discussion?
I just have some additions. July 20th is gonna be, I think it's like the Ironman in Salem. So if you're planning to drive through downtown Salem, just prepare for that. I also encourage people to come out to it. It's a good time, and it brings a lot of visitors that typically, haven't heard of Salem to Salem from other countries as well as throughout the United States. So it puts us on the map, like in a bigger circle than just a tiny dot. And then and then in August, there's the National Night Out events throughout the city. And then that's August 5th, the first Tuesday in August. So look at your local neighborhoods and find one. And then on August 6th, the NOLA, so North Lancaster Neighborhood Association, does the night after National Night Out at McKay Park.
Thank you. Gretchen, I have question regarding National Night Out. And maybe if it's not too much of a too much of an ask, maybe reaching out to Salem Police and asking where they plan on being for National Night Out, and then emailing that to commissioners who might want to, maybe, just show up and kind of, help be that bridge between community members and law enforcement at these National Night Out events.
Actually, thank you. I already know the answer to that. This year, I believe, given capacity constraints, Salem Police is making a shift in their approach with National Night Out, still coordinating it and helping neighbors set up events all over the city, but they themselves are going to be at their station. So they're going to host a National Night Out
perfect.
at the police station, and there'll be community members invited to come there, and they'll be less able to get out and spread out. And so they're not planning on being out at all of the others.
If you wouldn't mind, though, still, thank you for that update. Providing a list of where some of these National Night Out locations are for commissioners in case they want to attend, and
Thank
then
you.
maybe asking Salem Police Department if they're okay with maybe some commissioners, if some commissioners are inclined to crash their event at the police department as representatives of HRC, if that might be an opportunity.
I know the public's completely welcome at that one, and I'll get you the information that you described.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Chair. Just in a comment in regards to Director Bennett's input, she is exactly right. There is a difference this year compared to last year National Night Out. However, the chief recently sent out an email in the past hour and a half, and basically they've made some changes. Event registration is still in process, and there are going to be at least 20 different participants identified so far. So in essence, they are going to do the same thing as last year, but they're only going to go to 20 different places. And so if you want to be a part of that, you'll need to work with Officer Jantz. And Director Bennett, I can send you this email, and then if you like, you can share it with the commissioners, and then they can govern themselves accordingly.
Counselor Dr. Brown, thank you. I'd appreciate it.
No worries. I'll send it to you right now.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that update, Dr. Brown. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Other things on community calendar before we move into committee and project updates? Seeing none, I will turn it over to Commissioner Strathy, who chairs the Community Engagement Committee.
Okay, so we met and we were talking about the survey. I think we talked about that a little bit today in the plan. I don't believe we have a month yet from when we'll present to City Council. But we are looking forward to feedback. We will, again, consolidate. That's the word I was missing before. Consolidate your feedback. And then Robert Commissioner Marshall has offered to graciously put that together in a PowerPoint. And then Commissioner and Chair Lara Midkiff offered to present, I believe, with Vice Chair. So we have a plan. I think we can bring that back to this commission to get feedback. So we have to put it together first, get your feedback, and then take it to council. So that will be in the fall. We have a couple months. It's not going to be immediate, and that's usually how it goes. So is there anything I'm missing there? Okay.
I think that was the bulk of that.
Okay. We talked about asking for more members. So Gretchen, I did send you a blurb today to put into City of Salem Communications or Commission Communications to request more members for the committee. And then also potentially that will lead to leadership transition, as my job is very busy now. And I also run task force and committees for a different government at the moment. So at present, I will remain the chair and until at least August, and then we'll evaluate again, and hopefully we get some new members because that was really helpful for our LGBT committee. We talked about data visualizations. That was a project that's been ongoing. We've talked about using, is it ArcGIS?
That is correct.
Okay. I know I've heard it called GIS and ArcGIS, but we talked about using ArcGIS to basically show a visualization of all the different data systems that we use about the bias crime reports and belonging survey, and to create transparency of that data in a way that's also, I would say, like a little bit psychologically safe for the community who submits their okay, well, as an example, like if someone says this hospital system was a place where I experienced discrimination, we're not going to necessarily name that hospital system, right? We're not going to put it on a map that that hospital, and that's just an example, has discriminated against people. And so we have to think about what that looks like. And we have a lot of data over the years, but we are still trying to work on data visualization. And at the Community Engagement Committee, we talked about moving data visualization to a task force for now to make more progress with that project because it's been on hold. And Vice Chair, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you summed that up perfectly. I think we were gonna just waiting on Chair Lara Midkiff to kind of, process that kind of conversation, everything regarding the task force, and then I'm hopeful that he'll come back and be able to provide more information on that at next month's meeting on whether or not he wants to, continue that conversation as part of the Community Engagement Committee, or maybe potentially making a task force within that committee. I did just want to add the reason that conversation kind of came up was because this has been something that's been in the works for a while now, and then it's just kind of just stalled out at various at various points along the way, just because of other tasks that have demanded the committee's attention. And I think we also had discussed that a lot of the people that we might want as part of helping us put this together and everything are probably, they're not as available during the evening. We look at the city's GIS specialist, Dan Brown, would be able to, we think, be able to provide more time and help to getting that up and running if this were taking place. If some of these conversations were happening in the daytime, because right now what Gretchen's having to do, she's having to play a lot of telephone between what we're kind of discussing about what we want the dashboard to maybe look like. Then she's having to take that back to Dan, and then Dan's having to take that back to Gretchen, and it's having to then trickle down to us. And so we've looked at potentially kind of that task force with inviting some of these subject matter experts to the table to really help us get it kind of up and running. Any questions, comments regarding the Community Engagement Committee report?
Before that, there is one more thing. Thank you, Gretchen, for reminding me. We also were asking for opportunities to engage, and where commission members would like to engage with community. We had kind of floated the idea of going around Lancaster in that area to engage with community. Logistically, that's just a little difficult because it's not as walkable as what we did downtown together, I believe exactly a year ago almost. So that's kind of, again, stalled, and our capacity has been a little difficult this year too. So now that it's summertime, we've talked about re-engaging with universities as a priority, and that's something that I believe we heard the commission discuss and the committee discuss. So it seems like that's the first step we'll take, but Gretchen has sourced some feedback from the commission about places where commissioners would like to see engagement and has a list. So she is sharing that list right now, but it's like National Night Out, Peace Walks, clipboarding in parks, tabling in front of the library. We talked about the library quite a bit, and that came up again today. Visiting businesses and engaging with small businesses. That's what we did last year. Downtown Salem, that was successful. Neighborhood associations and their quarterly chair meetings or individual monthly meetings. And then there's a couple of events that were offered as well. So there's a list, which I think we do not have at least 2 of these on our events calendar. So maybe we put those on there too. And then the university, since they're going back to school in a month or so, it's a good time to re-engage with students. So we did one engagement, I think it was Vice Chair Marshall and Commissioner, oh my gosh, Kelsey? I can't remember her last name. It's on the screen. I just can't see it. Murray, thank you. I believe in the, maybe, who was it? Was it Marianne?
Are you referring to the
Willamette.
that Willamette
Yeah.
University event? Oh, that was myself, Director Bennett, and then former Councilwoman Stapleton.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes. Sorry. I was trying to recall. Okay. So we did do that, but it wasn't like tabling or going up to students and engaging necessarily like one-on-one in like the quad area or a cafe or something like that. So we can talk about what that would look like or that would feel like and try to engage with universities. Any feedback on this list?
Okay, this is gonna be my recommendation and ask of fellow commissioners here is Director Bennett, if you haven't emailed this list out, if you could at some time email it to commissioners, and then if you guys wouldn't take a look at it and then provide some feedback to Gretchen in a separate, like a single email, just reply directly to Gretchen. Don't reply to all of us. And then kind of some of your top places you think we should target and rough timelines, then I believe the committee could then chew on that at our next committee meeting. So just take a look at the thing, identify like maybe like the 1 or 2 things you're like, oh yes, like maybe some of you guys are like just wanting to be there for parent week at Willamette, then perfect. Then there's 2 people that say I really want to do that. Then we've got 2 people and we've got a engagement event already planned there. It doesn't need to be, we don't need to go out 20 deep. You know, 2 people are like, oh, hey, I really want to do that. We can play matchmaker on the back end, and then we'll send you guys out there with some business cards and some flyers, and you guys can go spread the good word. Yes.
So about the universities, Gretchen, our next steps on that, do we check in with them? Were you able to check in with them, or what are our next steps there?
We do. If I get a sense that that would be a priority for the group, I've got the civic engagement liaison person at each of the schools. And so I can just say, okay, the group's interested. This is around the time frame they want to do it. What do you have for me? Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Anything else for community engagement? Seeing no hands, we will move on to the Disability Rights Task Force update. Chair Midkiff chairs that task force. He's not here, so I can provide some update, but then I also encourage Commissioner Ballard and Director Bennett to pick up anything that I left off. So we've I believe we had our fourth meeting. I think fourth meeting on this, and really the idea of this Disability Rights Task Force is to really identify ways that we can identify if there's ways that we can improve the livability, what those might look like, and what recommendations, if any, we might be able to propose to council on ways to, you know, just make Salem a more friendly community for individuals with varying levels of disability, noting that disability isn't just mobility, but, you know, disability can also include, you know, people with, you know, psychiatric disabilities, people with neurodivergencies. And so really just analyzing that kind of as a whole, really just taking that, you know, disability is a wide spectrum. And how do we make sure that, you know, what we're focusing on incorporates all of that. We had a really great presentation, and I do just want to, I forgot her name already, but the director for Center 50 Plus gave probably a really great, Marilyn, she did a really great presentation on everything that Center 50 Plus has to offer, so much more than I ever knew about. And I really encourage all of you guys, Center 50 Plus and everything isn't just 2 couches and everything where old people and everything sit down and everything play backgammon. It is way more than that. Like, it is not, it's just phenomenal what they do, the services they're providing, and just the work that they've put in. They have this group, I think it's Age Friendly Salem or something similar to that, and they've really just been identifying ways internally how they can improve the livability and just make Salem more friendly to that aging population. Also noting that that aging population does as people get older and everything have more limited mobility. And so I think there's some natural pathways for either the task force continuing to partner with Center 50 Plus or even the HRC exploring that. And so we learned more about just Center 50 Plus, what the city of Salem's doing, and just some of the things they've heard. And then we are doing some listening sessions, and I don't have all the listening sessions in front of me. So please, Commissioner Ballard, help me out here, and Director Bennett, but we're going to be doing a listening session at Sequoia Crossing. We have a listening session planned for the Salem Public Library. We have a listening session planned for Center 50 Plus, going to Center 50 Plus, and then also there's a group, there's a representative from this group, and I forget that person's organization.
I believe it's called Neurodiverse Solutions.
Yes.
And so the idea of these listening sessions is to really just hear from the community, various populations, different populations about the challenges they've experienced and ideas and recommendations they might have for improving the livability for people with disabilities in Salem. Part of that was a survey was discussed. A relatively short survey, nothing as long as the community engagement, but being able to send that out ahead of time for people that might not necessarily feel comfortable talking in a public space, but it's also just a great way for us to be able to capture a wider audience with some of the feedback that we're seeking. And so you can expect that survey sometime next month, I imagine. Commissioner Ballard, did I miss anything?
At these listening sessions, we're actually asking for a specific format for people to talk to us. We want people to tell us their story, and then how can we make Salem better for them, or what do they think would make it better, and then do we have any questions for them? Like, can we ask them questions? And I think the survey is going to kind of echo that, but also a few more, I think, probably demographic questions.
Yes.
Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that folks who were not comfortable speaking would have an opportunity to also provide that. And if folks want to pull us aside one-on-one, I'm happy to do that, at least at the ones I'll be at. Yeah.
Absolutely. Director Bennett, did I miss anything you'd like to add? So we're plugging right along, and I think we're making some really great work. The task force the task force members have been working hard, and they've been very engaging in a lot of these conversations, and I'm looking forward to some of the recommendations they might have as we progress. Any questions regarding the Disability Rights Task Force? Commissioner Strathy, go ahead.
So do you have any listening sessions with like veterans disability groups? And then my second question / statement would be, I have a lot of contacts at Shangri-La, if you would like.
Oh, that was on the.
Yeah.
We don't have a specific veterans group, so that would be really interesting, Kate, or Commissioner Strathy. And yes, the fifth listening session that's in the middle of getting scheduled is in a partnership with Shangri-La. we've got that moving. Yeah.
I knew I was forgetting something.
If you need any help, you need any help, let me know.
Perfect. Awesome. No,
And I'm gonna second what Robert said too about Center 50 Plus. Maryland did an excellent presentation, and it's just absolutely amazing the things that they do over there. I've actually been there for a couple things for my job, and they have 465 volunteers.
I think 125,000, like 100 something thousand volunteer hours, I believe is what she said.
It is absolutely amazing the things that they do. And I'm technically 50 plus, so I might go hang out there now.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of things. One, in regards to those listening sessions, is there like a flyer or something to share with community about that? Because tonight's my first time hearing that. I love the sound of it. I just want to know a little bit more of the details about it. And secondly, I did hear from Director Bennett that the idea of having a listening session for veterans would be a good idea. And speaking as a veteran, I would definitely co-sign on that idea. And if you needed a place to hold that particular listening session, I could also take care of that for you too, for the veterans.
Dr. Brown, thank you so much for that offer. I will definitely take that veteran specific listening session back to the task force members. As a veteran myself as well, I support that wholeheartedly, and working for an organization that does a lot of work with veterans. I agree. I think the task force will also agree. And so I look forward to being in touch more about the veteran one. To answer the question about the communications, we do have some flyers in the works, and we plan on being able to finalize those at the August event. The Center 50 Plus event and the Salem Public Library event will be open to the public. We do encourage anybody to come. Some of the more population specifics are kind of, closed, like the Sequoia Crossing one, for example, is really, an opportunity to hear about the residents. We're going to be hosting it at Sequoia Crossing itself, either in their community room or, in their courtyard quad to ease the accessibility of those residents. So we're kind of doing some public facing events as well as some more targeted population specific, but we will have flyers available. And then part of the survey was our way of being able to get that out. And that survey information will be on those forward-facing communications.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And may I have one more comment, please?
Yes, please.
Just in regards to Director Bennett, I just really want to give her and her team a huge shout out, because Director Bennett wears many, many hats in the city. And so much appreciation to her and all that she does, not only for the Human Rights Commission, but with so many of our commissions. So thank you, Director Bennett.
Oh, thank you.
All right, we will move on to the LGBTQIA plus committee. Commissioner Presti chairs that. I will turn it over to her.
Thank you, Vice Chair Marshall. So for us, it feels like we met yesterday, but I think it's been a week or two, something like that. It's all blending together. So the committee is still working on the healthcare forum and resource fair for LGBTQIA individuals and healthcare providers, obviously, to come together. And some topics that will be discussed is inclusive care practices, healthcare disparities, access, and experience and advocacy. So this is something we've been working on for a little while. It got put on the back burner, and we're now kind of picking it back up. So we're still pending a date. And Gretchen is currently reaching back out to healthcare partners that have agreed, but then we had to say no, not yet. It will be at the Locks Auditorium. So when we have more information on what the date is going to be, I will pass that on. We also are registered to table at Pride in the Park. And I will graciously ask Gretchen to send back out that sheet so people can sign up to table. So if you're available, that would be wonderful. I think Pride in the Park this year is September 20th, if I'm not mistaken. We would love to have you guys table. And then lastly, did I have a lastly? Yes, thank you. Trans Day of Remembrance is quickly coming up, even though it's July. So the committee will start working on that at our next meeting. So that's all I have, unless anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions for Commissioner Pressey? Seeing none, we will move on to item number 6, staff updates. Director Bennett.
Thank you. Just one. I want to remind folks I'm going to be away from my desk July 21 through August 1. So this month's committees that haven't yet met have scooted up a week. So we'll see everyone on the LGBTQIA plus and the community engagement committees next Wednesday, the 16th, which is a week earlier than normal. And I have a backup colleague who will be our point of contact should complaints or concerns of discrimination come in while I'm away, and will be assisting people with that. So just wanted to make you aware.
Thank you. Any questions for Director Bennett? Seeing none, I will move to agenda item number 7. Any final remarks or announcements from commissioners or our guests this evening? Seeing none, we will go ahead and adjourn tonight's meeting. Thank you, everybody, for showing up and for your participation. Appreciate it.
Bye,
Thank
y'all.
you.